It's so sad. No thanks to the federal government, no thanks to the poor system, no thanks to poor parental upbringing. This is very, very critical in the development or non development of any nation. Hello, wonderful people. I want to just specially welcome you to another beautiful edition of Leading the Nations with your friend and brother, Ikenna, Emmanuel. Today I'll be talking about three major weak systems that has actually affected the development of my powerful nation called Nigeria. Every nation and any nation that has an exposure to these weak systems, that nation is already on the verge of destruction and underdevelopment. And any of the nations that we have actually we've been celebrating, developed nations, world-class nations, or first-class nations, or first-world nations. These nations have given attention to these three systems. There are more than 4, 5, 6, 8 systems, but for today, I'll be focusing on the first three that I think that is very, very important, that everyone in Nigeria and everyone in any developed nation that is watching me, that nation need to give attention to these systems. All right, number one is the weak family system. I remember specifically something that happened when I was growing up as a little boy in a primary school, and I had good writing. I could write well, and I had one of my friends who couldn't write well, so he told me I should help him copy his notes. So because I had finished copying my own, I was able to help my friend copy his notes. By the time I was done with copying of the notes, he gave me some money. I think that was 17 naira then, back in the days. So I was able to buy some snacks, and then I go home with the remaining change. That was quite a big money then. When I go home in the night, my dad was actually looking and checking up my books, and he saw the money. He was like, "Who gave you money, Ikenna? Who gave you money?" So I was trying to explain. He took me to school the next day, and guess what? I got a spank of my life. I was actually reprimanded for such kind of behavior of helping someone to copy notes. You find that was a good start for me, and that was actually a big contribution to whatever I am today. I get so sad in Nigeria when I see parents write common entrance. Look at the name, common entrance for their children. I see a lot of parents, your children are writing GCE for them, external candidate GCE, their students are writing for them. You find out that the weak family system has actually affected the development of this wonderful nation, Nigeria, and several other nations. Once there is a weak family system, where the father cannot take up responsibility, where the mother does not care what the daughter is putting on, where the mother cannot control the daughter again, or the father cannot actually give the father his children or his sons direction, you find out that such kind of nation, just like Nigeria, that's what's going on. Nobody cares how people get money these days. All fathers and mothers are interested is, get some money, let's have a good house. Nobody wants to follow the process of morality, integrity, and a sense of responsibility in our nation. So it's important for everyone that is an upcoming leader and everyone that is a young person that is growing a new family, you need to begin to have family values. This is very, very important. The absence of these family values have affected the development of this wonderful nation called Nigeria. All right, the second weak system is the weak educational system. The weak educational system. I can go on and on talking about the weak educational system. The kind of education that has been brought into Nigeria and Africa has actually lived its welcome. It's important for us to evolve. It's important for us to innovate around what has been brought to us from the Western world, so that it can actually meet up with the kind of standard of living that we have at our disposal in Nigeria and Africa. This is very, very important. All right, looking at what we have already, we have a 6-3-3-4 system of education, where you find that certain persons, definitely we need to get into entrepreneurship, we need to get into knowledge economy, we need to get into some certain levels of deviation or diversification of education. in order for us to get away from this poverty, in order to get away from this deterioration that has bedeviled our nation. It gets me so sad when I see professors of economics that cannot manage a kiosk. We are so worried because when you see people who study statistics, they cannot actually compute data. You find people that graduate from the university, they cannot express themselves. You find several persons coming out of the university, but these people cannot deliver. They cannot produce. They are not producing anything. So all they just do is to go for NYSC, spend 1 year, the federal government spends 30,000 naira monthly on them, and then they launch. That's just, I just call NYSC. NYSC is just a kind of a 1 year temporary coming down that the federal government gives to graduates from Nigerian university before releasing them out. Because if the federal government allows people to graduate from the university, get into the labor market, it's going to be a disaster. So within the 1 year, they just pay you to calm you down. So it's important that the government creates an opportunity for entrepreneurship. It's also important for the teachers, the lecturers, for everyone to begin to give attention to the students, and the students also should also get proper attention when it has to do with education. This is very important. World-class nations, first-class nations are all giving attention to nothing else but education, not just education of reading, writing, or cram, pass, forget. People just go to the exam hall, they cram, they pass, and then they forget. Someone just walks into an exam, you ask them, what course did you study yesterday? They say, I can't remember, I'm done with that, done and dusted, and all the rest of those jargons, and then they throw themselves mold. And it's just so sickening that in the global situation, in the global sphere, you still find undergraduates in Nigeria behaving as people that did not go to school at all. This is so sad. No thanks to the federal government, no thanks to the poor system, no thanks to poor parental upbringing. This is very, very critical in the development or non-development of any nation. Once the educational system is weak, the country is going to be weak generally. The third weak system that has actually affected the development of the nation Nigeria and several nations in Africa is the weak religious system. A religion is the opium of the masses. Why? Because it has the capacity to do and undo anyone that's exposed himself to such. Why I wouldn't have the right, or I don't have the kind of information or authority to talk about other religion. I want to talk about the Christianity that I know too well. We are the light of the world, according to Matthew chapter 5, verse number 13 to 16. We need to begin to express ourselves. We need to begin to make impact. As a people, the church is the catalyst for national transformation. The church is not restricted to the world of buildings. We need to begin to engage our society. And this is one of the reasons why I've taken my time to create systems. There's nothing wrong in the church creating a company that can actually employ people, while we also build our big cathedrals for people to worship. And we need to turn our Sunday services, we also need to turn our midweek services to human capital development centers, where people come and they get themselves empowered. It's good to undergo spiritual power. I believe in spiritual power, but I also believe in intellectual power. I believe in education. I believe that when people come to church, they're not expected to just go with spiritual ecstasy and then they fall down and they wake up with their poverty. There are several persons who may need to be healed and then raised from financial wheelchair. And I want you to know something, that you need to give them that information, while you also lay hands on the sick and cast out devils. I do cast out devils. I do deliverance. But one thing I've ever done is that I expose people to knowledge. And this is very important. Let me talk to everyone that is a pastor, bishop, or prelate, reverend father, that people gather from Sunday to Sunday in their thousands before you. And then from Monday to Sunday, they are all waiting to hear from you. You are a failure. I still repeat, you are a failure. We have about 1,000 persons sitting down, waiting from morning to night, and then filling form just to wait for you as a person. You are a failure. I'm sorry about that. Maybe I'm using that bad words. You are expected to empower people. You are expected to empower them with knowledge, expose them to the things that they need to succeed in their life, their career, their business, their family, so that the bigger problems that are beyond them, they can actually come to you. That is how it was actually set up by God himself. Jesus Christ, when he was on earth, said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor, and recovery of sight to the blind. I preach the gospel, restoration of lives, and then healing the broken-hearted. And I want you to know something, that this is the assignment of the church in Nigeria and the church in Africa. So by the time we give attention to these three systems, number one, giving attention to the family system, giving attention to the educational system, and giving attention to the religious system, our nation, Nigeria, will make advancement. God bless everyone. God bless everyone that is watching me today. And I trust that your life will never remain the same again. Till I see you in the next edition of Leading the Nations, I remain your friend and your brother, Ikenna Emmanuel. I'm just here and at the International Center for Leadership Diplomacy, Economic and Human Development. Please log in on our website, www.igoldafrica.com. Till I see you in the next video, do have a wonderful time.